Welcome back, everybody, to The Aesthetic Angle. I'm Dr. Regina Nouhan, and I used to be a partner here at Monarch Plastic Surgery. And so we are here today to talk about the history of Monarch and the span of nearly 30 years, which is just incredible. So I am with Dr. Richard Bene and Dustin Carrillo, and we are going to talk to you about everything Monarch, and I'll answer all those questions you may have had, and maybe a few that you didn't have before. So thanks for hanging in there with us. Well, first, I want to talk about the very beginning of Monarch Plastic Surgery. You know, Rich, you and I know this, but why don't you tell our viewers what sparked the idea for the practice? How did it originate?
Well, as you start off as a fresh new doctor and you try to blaze a trail of trying to give good patient care and run a little bit of a business, you find out sometimes along the way that your ideas are maybe you're a little headstrong and you like the way you want to do it and not the way somebody else wants you to do it. And at that time, we found a couple of like-minded individuals who had been through the startup process with others and decided that, you know what, we could do this ourselves. And so that's when another doc in town named Dan Bortnick and I decided to get together and try to see what we could make out of that kind of a vision. And shortly thereafter, you came along and had been started in practice the same time as us. And we thought it'd be a good idea to see if we could set out and kind of crack this nut on our own.
Yeah, as a collective, yeah.
Yes. So, we had to do things like find some office space and figure out what it meant to bill somebody for plastic surgery work, and so we had to hire an office manager and all those kind of good things, and so that's really kind of where we started. And
But it was a while before we hired an office manager, though, right?
yeah, that probably took us maybe a full year and a half into the process. We were super fortunate that we had had a contact with an individual who had been retired, who had run a pediatric surgery practice here in town.
Right.
And we sort of talked her out of retirement to help us. And so she somewhat reluctantly agreed to do so. And we had a lot of growing pains at that point,
yeah.
but it was, but really helped us start off, in the right direction.
Yeah.
So we went and we talked to some other, a lot of friends involved with this whole process. You can't call on the people you know. So it turned out that a friend of mine had been involved with building an office for a group of family medicine docs who were in Overland Park, and it turned out that they had a little extra space in their building.
Yeah.
So we were able to rent some space from those docs. They were wonderful docs. They were wonderful. They enabled us to get started. We used a little pod in their clinic to use as our home base for office, and set up shop there.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the beginnings of it.
Yes. And I should mention that back originally, the name of the practice was Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery Associates. And that at some point we thought, okay, that's a pretty generic name. What can we do to celebrate this new consortium of partners? And we utilized the wonderful people at Design Ranch. And after going back and forth with many things, we came up with they came up with Monarch Plastic Surgery. And, we loved that concept because, okay, there's a butterfly, there's beauty, there's the concept of metamorphosis, there is, also top of the heap. We really wanted to excel at our craft. And so it was just a perfect name for us. So
I agree. They did a wonderful job for us. And, part of that initial experience, still lives with us today. Really.
Yes.
So,
well, let's talk about what the first few months of practice looked like behind the scenes. And this is where your family comes in a little bit. And, I think the viewers here would love to hear about some of the difficulties and what it took just to make a practice run.
Well, sure. There's crazy things like that you don't think of. I guess when you think all of a sudden you're going to do this is, someone's got to call you on the phone, so you got to have a phone system, and then you got to have a person there to answer the phone,
Right.
and then you got to uh, be able to keep records of the people that you are seeing, and so
Files, yeah.
yeah,
Medical
so
records.
so
Yeah.
that's where my family was deeply involved in that whole process. Both from my wife, who was really an integral part and kind of an unsung hero in the whole entire
Yeah.
thing.
A physician herself.
She is a physician, and yeah, at nighttime we
But she
would,
was helping your practice.
yes, at nighttime after her full day of work, we would package up the whole entire family and take them over to the office and be assembling the O'Sullivan bookshelves so that we could house
Right.
our charts, and things like that.
You'd have to bring the kids.
Yeah, we had to bring the kids. We'd kind of put them in a little blanket or something, and they'd sleep for a few hours. And so, we
Just
worked a
put them on the
longer hour
floor.
probably because we didn't want to wake them up. So that, we didn't want to go home because we knew that involved waking them up.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
so anyway,
Yeah.
so
The
yeah,
sacrifices you make really just to get a business off the ground. And that's the thing, thinking about plastic surgery and as surgeons, we go to school, we train for this, we learn all the wonderful operations and ways to help people. But we don't really learn the business side of things. And now that it might be a little different. I think some of the plastic surgery residents may get a little education about that, but we, just have to figure it out on our own. And so that's what we're talking about here.
absolutely, it's a big learning curve, and you don't know what you don't know, and yeah, and quickly things come upon you that need solutions, and you figure out a way.
Yeah,
And basically, that's how we started.
absolutely. What were some of the biggest turning points that really accelerated growth? Well, the first one I think about is the skincare center, med spa. And we kind of had that before anybody else
Yeah,
was
I
around here doing that,
I
don't you
don't know
think?
if I can 100% fact check this, but
Yeah,
I think that we probably had one
one of
of
the
the
first.
first med spas that anybody had started.
Yeah.
We had a woman that was our first esthetician named Tina.
Tina
Tina,
Hillhouse.
yes,
Yeah.
and she did a wonderful job. She was very passionate about the whole entire concept,
Yeah.
and really probably did a lot to get us off the ground
Hmm.
in the very beginning. We grew relatively quickly to I think three estheticians, and yeah, it became a pretty strong entity. Regina, you were our first med spa director,
Yay.
which did a lot to help sort of align processes and make sure that we were operating within the realm of what's really accomplishable
Yeah.
and things like that, and has medical science behind its
More than
performance.
just hype. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more than just hype, and
Yeah.
so I think you get some kudos
Yay.
for
Yeah.
the wonderful
Yeah.
job
It
that you
was a lot of
did
fun.
starting that, taking responsibility
Yeah.
for that.
And you know what was really cool about having a skincare center, a med spa affiliated with our practice was number one, we have plastic surgeons right on site. And so we could oversee what kind of treatments were happening. And gosh, the rare occasion that there were problems, we were right there, which is different than I think a lot of other freestanding med spas around town. And the other thing is, it was such a nice addition to what we could offer patients as plastic surgeons. There were procedures, surgeries, and things that we could do, but sometimes, especially the skin, the texture of the skin, the quality of the skin, those things don't get addressed necessarily surgically. A facelift doesn't change the external surface of the skin, it gets rid of excess, basically. And so having another way to treat patients so that we can really have full circle of what we can provide people was such a way to elevate our practice, I think. Would
I
you
agree.
agree?
Oh, absolutely. I think it adds to, it's complementary to
Yeah.
the plastic surgery services that we offer, and allowed us to treat things that we weren't able to treat with just surgical techniques alone.
Yeah.
I think there are some preconceived ideas about certain procedures that patients arrive with that they may be shocked to learn that the surgery is not going to address that particular problem, and it provides an opportunity for us somewhere else in our business to be able to address that issue.
Yeah.
And the techniques that have been advanced over the course of time have only increased the ability to do that.
I know. Yes.
So
pretty exciting.
it is very exciting.
Yeah. Great.
So,
And then having that med spa, of course, that was another component of the business, but there were, lots of challenges around that, but also exciting things. Dustin, we started doing an event to kind of celebrate the skincare center and the practice itself. Would you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think it was right after we moved into the building back in 2009.
Yep.
Yeah, so we had our first client appreciation event that year. Really, it was just to celebrate, multiple things, right? Getting into the new building, also having just, appreciating all of our clients to help us get there as well.
Yeah.
And so we had a big event, a big open house. I think it was on a Thursday evening. I remember it pretty well.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of a, I don't know, something I always look back on because I thought it was a pretty cool experience, not just the experience of the client appreciation event, but I think it was more memorable after the event where I saw several of the doctors and their spouses all sitting in the break room after everybody had left, and they were sitting there just reflecting and look how far we've come. And I think that's something that resonates with me a lot of it's something people work so hard for over many, many years, and to see something be developed and come to fruition and be able to take a pause for a minute and look back of what they built. So I think that's something that, it still resonates with me of something, I tell people a lot that I've worked with over the years. You always have to pause and look back to see and reflect how far you've come. Because if you look forward all the time, there's just so much more work to do. And the goal continues to get pushed further and further away every step of the way you get. So really having that time to kind of reflect, I think is, it's special.
Which we're doing right now.
Yeah.
I love
Fantastic.
it. And, I would love it if you would tell the viewers what your role is at Monarch and then the evolution of how you've been involved, because you've had many roles all along. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah. So currently I'm the CEO of Monarch Plastic Surgery. Been in this role for about a year and a half now. But my journey has been a long trip. I actually started back when I was 16 years old here.
16. And what were you doing at 16?
Well, back then, Monarch still had paper charts.
Yes.
And so when, dictations came back, op notes were returned, all those things that were returned had to be filed. So I got to, after one of my practices in high school, afterwards, I used to come to the office and I would file charts. And so I think it was soon after you had started. So I had 3 physicians to file the charts for. And so I tried to do that at nighttime. So all of your stuff was ready to go for the next day.
So appreciated.
Yeah.
Rich put you to work, right?
Heck yes.
So that I did that for a while. But then after college, I actually came here. I think they were on the verge of going to an EMR system, or you all were.
EMR, the electronic medical records.
Yes.
A painful transition, I will say, but it was the way of the world. We had to do it.
Yeah. And so that was in the era of everybody having to transition over. So I think that was, I think you all had identified a platform, but then were looking for help transitioning into that. So I was brought on to really work with you all and the vendor to get everybody onto Practice Partner.
A tough job, let me tell you.
So in doing so, I learned a lot of people's roles because I was trying to understand how everybody worked and how they would be able to, or how they would have to utilize the software, because it's an integral part of the clinic.
And when people hear about it, it sounds like, oh, you just went digital, why wouldn't you? And it just seems so simple, but it was anything but. It was very laborious, transferring everything and then getting used to, as a physician, having to enter everything in a computer, basically, instead of just writing a note and having everything handy. There were layers and layers of data that you had to enter, and it wasn't necessarily intuitive. And I do recall some older colleagues of ours who chose that time to retire because they did not want to deal with electronic medical records. But
Well,
anyway.
back then too, the EMR system, they didn't have anything for plastic surgery specifically.
Yes.
So
Tell us about that.
really set up to be a primary care EMR system. And so
Yeah.
we had to really kind of customize it for a plastic surgery office.
Yeah.
So
It's like inventing the wheel.
Yeah.
Really.
Yep. So we did a lot of work behind the scenes trying to get it ready for how you all would effectively use it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's a challenging time, but
Yeah.
that's okay. It's all about.
But-
we're up to challenges
Yeah.
every day. So
well, and so we ended up doing that, and then I ended up staying on, kind of being an in-house IT person.
yeah, that's right. You're the go-to.
Did a little bit of the marketing things. I tried my hand at, I had to take some classes to do all the Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator. And, I thought I was going to go that route with my career and learn pretty quickly. I was not that talented in that world. So
Just trial and error.
I
There's
know.
nothing wrong with that.
Yep. But yeah, so I stuck around for about 5 years. I helped with the skincare center as well. Worked back then. We worked with you and Susan Hood,
Yes, yes.
and we really tried to develop the practice a little bit more. And we actually put them onto a new system as well, point of sale system,
Yeah.
Millennium. I don't
Oh
know
my
if
gosh.
you remember that, but
Well, that is great. Rich, at what point did we realize we actually needed a CEO? Dustin is a wonderful CEO now, but what do you think was prompting that?
I don't know if I can pick put my finger on an exact moment in time. However, the complexities of running a medical office and practice, with the number of physicians that are involved, and increasingly the
were
number
6 of us.
of yes,
So it's a
well,
lot.
yeah, and if you include me now, we're up to 7. So
Yeah.
with an 8th person on the way.
Yeah.
So the number as the med spa is certainly a driver in all of that too. The number
point.
of corporate interactions and so on just increasingly became, I don't know if burdensome is the right word, but something that needed to be managed.
Yeah.
Increasing the awareness of our own data, or the value, mining the value of our own data, and making choices based on real facts as opposed to some gut feel that one has.
Just shoot from the hip. Yeah.
Really drives home the need for a little more direction and a little more understanding and analysis of where one is and where one's going.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There were, 6 of us at the time, and it was becoming a very successful practice. And we had to devote so much of our time to the patients and clinical practice that even though some of us may have business acumen, it really wasn't time to do the research and everything we needed to make good judgments business-wise. And so as you say, that's when it became clear that, we need someone who is dedicated to this. And Dustin's doing a great job now. There was Chris Loggy before him,
Yep.
and we have, relished that role really as such an addition to the practice. It's been wonderful. I do want to go back and talk about, we were talking about transitions and things in the practice or things that have changed. I would love to talk about building locations, not just our expansions, but also the building itself where we would see patients and take care of patients. And so tell us about that. And Dustin, you have some input on that too. So
Dustin, I don't know if you want to talk first, or maybe I'll set you up a little bit. We our first real location after we moved out of our temporary digs at the family medicine office was to land at College Boulevard and Knoll in an office building there, and we kept adding additional. Taking over the neighbor basically to get bigger. We outgrew that place to the point where it was obvious that we needed to do something different. We just literally were, making offices out of closets and stuff like this, and so and that was a point when Dustin was still heavily involved in his youth version of this role.
That's right.
And so we decided that we would buy some land and put up our own building that we would occupy. And so Dustin he was kind of the right-hand person when it came to, there's all kinds of research tasks that one needs when you figure out what you're trying to put together. And I don't know if you want to have any memories of that.
I try to block out most of
I was going to say.
No, I think
a challenging time.
Yeah. And I think you forged a lot of that in terms of identifying the land, and obviously you've selected a wonderful space in Leawood, and just forging that path. And I think it was, but it was a lot. There was so many things to think about, all the nuances of anything from IT related to the doors, the security badges,
and back before electronic records, schlepping charts up to the a different place.
Well, and the lack of, these are days when Wi-Fi is kind of a little, this is like when you talk about IT, it's like, well, we need data cabling to make this work in every room.
Right.
That's just, nobody would, they laugh at you these days if that's what your priority is to think about that.
Right, I know.
So yeah, those kind of issues that were just growth issues along the way.
Yeah. And what about, I'll let you finish, of course.
Sorry. Well, other things too. I thought, the design of the building and the flow, the workflow of how patients came in.
Efficiency.
How the physician, kind of was assigned to a pod, and the support staff that was there. I think really the design of the building was pretty ahead of its time in terms of making sure that, it worked well, and the flow worked well. And I think we've probably outgrown it again, and the design of it now, we're sticking people where maybe they shouldn't be. But at the time it was a very well built building.
And what about location expansions, North Office, and what else?
You want to talk about that at all?
Well, I think, so when I came back about a year and a half ago, they were already kind of in the midst of looking for maybe some other places to kind of expand into. And I think, we were to the point where we were overflowing in the building that we were in the Leawood office. We've had the North office as well for nearly 30 years.
So Missouri presence in addition to Kansas presence.
North side of Kansas City. So so we were there, and then we were in the Leawood office. But the Leawood office was definitely kind of exploding in terms of needing more space. So they actually identified a building just south of there to be more of the administrative building, so we can move all the administrative people out of that side and really set us up for the expansion and remodeling of the med spa. So definitely looking forward to that. But in the meantime too, we are also looking, and you probably have a lot more history with this, but one of the physicians out in Lee Summit had been looking to retire, and you had been connected with them for quite some time. So I'll let you chime in on that one.
Yeah, so Dr. Chatre out in Lee Summit had utilized an office building out there for 17 years. And so at the time he was ready to retire, we took the opportunity to work out a deal with him to take over his medical space and purchase his building. And so we're in the midst of trying to grow some additional, volume out in that neck of the woods, and we'll eventually embark on some additional updates there that will hopefully make that space a little more user-friendly for us and good for our patients as well.
Yeah, so Leawood and North Kansas City and Lee Summit, and what's going to be next? Who knows?
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
there are ideas that float
tuned.
around all the time. We'll just,
Stay
yeah.
tuned. Oh my gosh. Um, what do you think was instrumental in success for the practice? Some of the foundations, the concepts of things that we wanted to do. The things that come to my mind are camaraderie, trust, friendship, supporting each other's decisions. But what are your thoughts?
Well, I think all of those things are really important. The people involved make or break it, right? I mean,
Truly.
in the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. At our outset, majority of the people that came together had some rough experiences, at least, with people that they had worked with, and were looking for a way that was a little more maybe transparent. I don't know if we even knew that word at the time, but a little more trusting of the people around them, and
Right.
and I think we've carried that concept forward. I think that's I think ultimately hard work and that process
Yeah.
are the two most important ingredients. I mean, good patient care is out there, and things like that. We always want those to be on the top of our priority list, but having good people who are interested in working
Yeah.
together as a
Yeah.
group is paramount to the
Yeah.
success of the
I
business.
agree totally.
And hoping and being and as we evolve over time, being able to be there as a resource and I don't know, mentor might be a little bit strong, because most of the new docs that come out they're well trained, they've been through a lot, they're seasoned people already, but it's always nice to know that you can count on the group of people that you're working with to have your back and to help you when there's issues and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
I think that concept really goes a long way.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, a practice of 6+ doctors, plastic surgeons, I should say specifically, is pretty unusual in the private practice world, because this is a private practice. And, so often you'll see single plastic surgeons in practice, or maybe two together, but it's quite rare to have the number we had, and it's still ongoing. And I think a lot of that has to do with shared work ethic, the same level of work ethic. It had to do with our financial model. We were very careful to share everything equally with everyone, so no one felt taken advantage of, if you will, that kind of thing. And those were important things. And nowadays, you may see larger plastic surgery practices, but often they're hired physicians. Would you explain a little bit what a hired physician is?
Yeah, so more recently, the concept of employed physician has really become pretty commonplace in the medical world. There's certainly a significantly higher penetration of that in
Who's hiring them?
family medicine, yeah, hospital systems. And these days, the concept of private equity investment into plastic surgery practices is a pretty common theme. And, instead of people or physicians, sort of hanging up their sign on the door, and we're open for business, and doing everything from greeting the patient at the door to writing checks for the payroll and stuff like this. It's the evolution of that process doesn't really allow for that anymore.
Yeah.
And so there's a tendency for all physicians to be hired by a healthcare system or some other larger entity, multi-specialty group, in order to, sort of take the burden of some of those more arduous tasks or non-physician tasks away from them. And so there are many docs that choose that route. We're looking for people here that want to be able to sort of build something, not just show up and do their work for 8 hours and go home.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that they have to be doing all of those arduous tasks, those mom and pop kind of operation tasks, but But to be able to do it
invested in.
correct, have a little more personal investment in the practice, and for a while, I think we saw that the young physicians were a little scared off by the process of building.
Yeah.
And now I think the rebound of that is that people are coming back to, particularly plastic surgeons. They tend to be a crowd that really likes to be the innovator and to be the person who can contribute more than just, the 8 to 5 kind of thing, even if someone else is taking care of the more mundane tasks or the more business-like tasks.
Sure.
I think the concept of being involved and being able to be part of the building process,
utilizing creativity too.
Absolutely. I think their skill set is really strongly set up for success in that.
Yeah. Yes.
So
I agree completely. Well, let's shift a little bit and talk about the clinical side of things of plastic surgery. There's 30-year history we're talking about right here. How do we feel plastic surgery and aesthetics, maybe in particular, have changed since you and I were first in practice? What are your thoughts?
Well, it's certainly a little more commonplace, and certainly
Yes.
a little more
More accepted? You
yeah,
mean?
more visible, more people have generally gone from not wanting to talk about it to wanting to talk about it, and there's
And bragging about it on social media.
correct. Actually,
So-
it's become more mainstream. I think.
Yeah.
The acceptance of it is more mainstream. It's not a L.A. phenomenon or a Miami phenomenon anymore. There are the needs and demands of plastic surgery, particularly the aesthetic world, is commonplace in our environment.
It's an accepted part. Yeah.
And there's certainly been a little bit of a trend toward, the addition of the complementary aspect of the or less invasive aspect.
Right.
There's certainly a desire for less downtime for, I think our entire society looks for a little quicker fix mentality to things. It's not always possible or successful. There are limitations to that, but I certainly think there's a trend toward that desire. Whether it's accomplishable in all cases is probably questionable, but
absolutely.
But yeah, it's so we certainly see that as a trend.
even the way that plastic surgery is practiced and surgeries and procedures are performed have changed over 30 years. I mean, I remember back when we were first out, patients would go in the hospital to have anything done.
Oh, heck yes.
And often spend the night. And then that transitioned to, outpatient surgery centers. And now it's just, hey, in the office and,
Oh, yeah.
and things have been streamlined, and it's just a different world from back in the day.
Yeah, we certainly have. Yeah, back at the beginning of practice times, or maybe just a smidge into training. I mean, the night before the procedure, the patient showed up and got admitted to the hospital.
That's
the
right,
night
the
before.
night before, which is unheard of now.
Yeah, and procedures are being done as outpatient that you would never have thought they would be done as an outpatient, but that's commonplace at this point in time.
Absolutely.
It kind of the med spa concept kind of falls right in line with all of this, less invasive and all that kind of stuff too. That is part of current day practice.
Yeah, and we have more tools to work with, and I don't mean physical tools, but products and things. And you and I were talking not long ago about Botox. That wasn't even around when we were first in practice. But now all the injectables that are available that can create things that we never imagined, and the evolution of the concept of using fat as it's not just something you want to get rid of. It is actually like liquid gold. What we can do with it, we can graft it, we can inject it into areas that need volume, and it has properties to it that would make it certainly last longer than any other, off-the-shelf kind of filler. So
yeah, absolutely. The products, the availability of resources and different techniques that continue to evolve.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think where we've come even in the 30 years that I've been involved with it, and to think what 30 years from now will look like, is just almost scary.
Oh, I know, and it's
So,
exciting, and I have retired from clinical practice, this wonderful practice, and I'm doing my own podcast now called Plastic Surgery Decoded. But so through that, I'm able to keep up with everything and keep abreast of what's happening, and it's just so exciting, all of the new things. And touching on that, what do you think is coming in the next 5 to 10 years, or what do you think the direction of plastic surgery might be? And I have some thoughts about that too. So.
well, I'd be interested in your thoughts as well. I think a continued trend
Mhm.
toward procedures under local anesthesia, toward trying to, lessen recovery times, lessen down times, use of autologous tissues, fat grafting type things, or even if they're processed tissues that have long lasting duration, is probably a trend that
Yeah.
is continuing or will continue. Continued use of things such like hormones and
Hmm.
peptides and
Hmm.
other
Right.
healing aids, that anything that can help balance the system.
Stimulating,
Yes,
biostimulatory kind of
yes,
things. Yeah.
those kind of things I think are going to continue to be tools for our use, as we continue to learn how to use
Yeah.
them and
Yeah.
where to employ them and things like that. I think the continued use of that is really where we're headed.
Yeah, and there's this whole field of regenerative medicine, and the intersection of that with plastic surgery is just so exciting right now. The exosomes and the biostimulatory things we were talking about, and changing the quality of skin itself, not just taking out excess and stretching it or whatever, but actually changing the quality, restoring, rejuvenating the quality. Through these methods is just fascinating to me. And I think another thing it's starting a little bit now, but it's coming more so, is the use of AI, artificial intelligence in plastic surgery. It'll never replace, a physician's judgment and decision making, but it can be utilized as a wonderful tool for analysis and projection of future outcomes and things like that. I think in really fascinating ways. So.
I couldn't agree more. It's a super scary yet wide open,
Yeah, if we can
field for.
harness it
Yeah,
properly.
yeah. I like the challenge of it, of what's to come, but it's a bit scary at the same
Yeah,
time.
absolutely.
So
Oh gosh, let's see. Well, a few more things, just some fun things. What's just thinking about the years of Monarch? What's a you had to be there moment that still makes you laugh? And I will ask this to both of you guys if you have anything you can think of.
I think one of the things that's makes the job interesting is that you get this mentality once in a while that you think you've seen everything,
Right.
which it's probably a daily occurrence that you're reminded that you haven't.
Right.
And so, the stories of I cannot believe that this occurred, whether it's a story of Dr. Dillo encountering some very interesting injury that someone had because
Yeah.
they decided that they would do this or that or the other thing,
Yes. Yes.
that
Some
makes
unbelievable
you
stuff. Yeah.
makes you sort of chuckle that you can't believe that this really happened.
And you can't predict
You
anything.
can't no. So yeah, the idea that so thinking those are the moments that
Yeah.
and the ones that even I've had personally, where you think this didn't really happen,
Yeah.
are the kind of things
And
that
oh, yes, it did.
yes it did. You can't make this stuff up, kind of
Right.
thing.
Exactly. You can't make this stuff up.
Is
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
the overriding theme of that kind of thing.
Oh gosh.
Um,
And you mentioned Dr. Jeff Dillo, and I tell you, another partner here at Monarch, and he just full of stories and entertaining stories. And even if it wasn't entertaining to begin with, it was by the end of hearing the
Correct.
story. So, yes, very fun. Dustin, anything you were thinking of, or not so much?
Not so much. I
Yeah.
mean, from the business side, I think there's
There's nothing funny about that, right? Is that what you're saying?
Nothing as interesting as what you
Yeah.
might see in the plastic surgery world.
Yeah.
So,
Like,
yeah.
I can't believe we did this with da 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 da. So, anyway, okay. So, this is interesting. Uh, Rich, and I'll answer this too, but if you could ban one trend from the plastic surgery industry forever, what would it be?
I think my biggest, I guess I'll say pet peeve about this sort of thing is I really struggle. I love the innovative nature of plastic surgery,
Mm?
but I don't know that I like the market driven advancement. Things
Yeah.
are in medicine. I think the expectation is that the science leads the way in terms of innovation,
Yeah.
not somebody's ability to market something.
Hmm.
And although I find marketing to be an integral part of all of what we do, I would love to find a way to sort through fact from fiction and
Yeah.
and really curb the ability, and this might be a fantasy of mine that is not you can't get your arms around, but that I could have a better trust that the things that I see are true
These
and are
advances.
going to
Yeah.
work, because offering things to patients that you truly believe in, and then to find out that the trend was really more of a marketing trend
Mm.
than a science related trend
Yeah.
is frustrating. So
Yeah.
sorting through that, and
Yeah.
that's part of our role, is to try
Yeah.
to sort through and make sense of what's
Yeah.
real and what's not.
Yeah, and the patients struggle with this because they don't have the medical knowledge and they're trying to figure out what is effective, what is real, what is not. And they may not realize that as physicians, we have to go through that process
They
too. We
count
have
on
to
us
we have
to
to vet things, and it can be very difficult to do that.
Agreed. So they count on us to
Yeah.
do that, and never would we want to advise or lead a patient to a treatment that ultimately was misrepresented in some fashion. So I,
Yeah.
I would love
Yeah.
to find a way to channel that, to
Screen and
yeah, to screen out processes that are own, that are market driven and not science driven.
yeah, makes
So
sense. Well, as I think about this question, um, I think what I would love to ban from the industry forever is the phenomenon of overfilling people's faces in an effort to try to avoid surgical treatment, a facelift or something like that. And I do think this happens often with practitioners who do not have the capability to perform surgery. And patients can go down this path of just trying to do a little more, do a little more, do a little more, and pretty soon they start to look unnatural. And then that is a disservice to the patient rather than an enhancement. And so, if there was a way to never let that happen and stop that in its tracks before it got too far, then that would be wonderful. It is difficult too because some of it comes from the practitioner, but some of it comes from the patient too. And perhaps they've not been informed that this is a potential problem, or this is not going to get you the end result you want. You're not going to look more youthful or rejuvenated. You're going to look unusual. That can be a problem.
well, I think you touched on. I think having the armamentarium to
Yeah,
have access to all of the treatments that are possible
yeah,
to address someone's situation increases the probability that you're going to be able to achieve it without applying your hammer. Everything out there is not a nail.
Yeah,
And
exactly
so
right.
if you
Exactly
have
right.
limited number of tools in which to apply to a problem and you only have a hammer, that's what you're going to use.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
what you're talking about can be addressed in some way by having a wider armamentarium to use.
Truly. And, one thing I would stress to patients too is that the concept of static appearance and dynamic moving appearance. What I mean by that is you may look in the mirror after your injectables have been done and, oh my gosh, I look great from this angle, this angle. But when you start to move the face and talk, and that's where the unnatural can show up. And so we have to be careful about that. So, all right. Well, goodness. As we're finishing up here, is there anything that you would say to yourself or the team if you could go back and talk to them?
Well, I think as I age, one of my yes, as I get to the point where I am now, I think I look back and my biggest piece of advice that I give, not just young plastic surgeons, but this can apply to everybody across the board, and that is that I think it's really important to enjoy your journey. And to look for all the positives and to just enjoy the day. The idea that you have this goal out there is wonderful. And all of us who sit in these types of spots are goal-oriented people. There's always this carrot out there that you're striving for. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually very positive. But don't forget about the journey along the way and enjoy the ups, even enjoy the downs as a learning experience and something that you can draw on to be better the next time you encounter whatever situation you're in. And if you can get people to really, and maybe it takes the perspective of having been through a lot to give that to you. I think that that if you can get people to embrace that idea, they'll be happier in general, and they'll ultimately have less disappointments.
Yeah.
So
well said.
thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I echo that, and I would say I would also advise the team and myself, even at a younger age, to just trust yourself. You will figure it out. It's a challenge, and again, you don't learn all this stuff, even the business side of things. You don't learn it all at the beginning, but you will figure it out. And just there's a reason we got to the place where we are. We are capable people, and we just trust that we'll be able to go forward and flourish. So,
100% agree. Well said as well.
Yes. Well, this has just been wonderful. I would love to just finish up with just a final word or two that you have about the field of plastic surgery, the practice of plastic surgery, just what your thoughts of both of you.
You want to go first?
Go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think it's such an exciting industry to be in, and I think that was something that gravitated me back to being here is just the innovation, the things of where the field is going, not just on the plastic surgery side, but the aesthetic side and the wellness side.
Yeah.
I think there's so many things that are in the future that we should be striving for and trying to get better all the time. So I love the fact of that it's such a dynamic field and it's an exciting field. And I think, go back to Rich's point of, making sure that you enjoy the process and getting there. But I think it's, continue to reach for excellence, I think is, it's what I would recommend.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, I agree with all that. And, plastic surgery, I mean, what a great job and business to be part of. It's on the cutting edge of things in society, and just it's kind of front and center, and I love that, and I think it will continue to be that, and it's so it's a challenge. I think the challenges ahead of us are intriguing and will will be fun to deal with.
Yeah.
So I think we're going in the right direction, and it's just an interesting process to be a part of. And I couldn't be more grateful that I was lucky enough to be part of that.
Yeah. That's lovely. Yeah. I just, I have just been enchanted by the field of plastic surgery, and one of the things I love about it is the creative potential. There's this running saying that if you get 10 different plastic surgeons in a room and present them with a problem, they'll come up with 10 different solutions. And that's what I love about the field. There's not just one right answer, and you use the mental and physical tools that you have to create a solution to the problem that's put in front of you. And there's just so much more potential out there. And I just love the variety of things that fall under the umbrella of plastic surgery, both aesthetic and reconstructive. So it's been a wonderful field for me. And again, I'm a retired practice partner from Monarch Surgery, but what a wonderful practice Monarch has developed into. And 30 years passed. It's going to be another wonderful 30 years, I would imagine. I'm Dr. Regina Nouhan, and thank you to Dr. Richard Bene and Dustin Carrillo. And I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Thanks, and check out the next one.